if what happened at the end of Chargers-Chiefs happened on Sunday night, Monday night, or Thursday night, it's all we would have been talking about into the next day. Chargers lead by 6. Chiefs have one last gasp. Patrick Mahomes running around, buying some time, throwing the ball to the end zone as he tends to do. Watch Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's a little stutter step off the line, but he gets down the field. Mahomes up in the pocket, and there it is. There's the ball to the end zone, and you've got not one but 2 Chiefs who get wiped out by the Chargers. Travis Kelce gets taken out. Tyreek Hill is bear hugged and prevented from even making an opportunity to get his hands anywhere close to the ball. Look at Hill. How is that not pass interference, Chris?
Listen.
Under what definition, under what circumstance? And I know they have a looser, even though the rule book doesn't say it, they have a looser definition of it on Hail Mary. How is that not pass interference?
No, Mike, I can't defend that. Listen, I'm all for, like, hey, calling it a little looser on that play. Definitely. You know, I mean, listen, it's been like that ever since I've been a young kid growing up watching football, 100%. But, like, it was never this. It was never like, we're going to go down in the end zone and just bear hug Jerry Rice to where he can't catch the ball. I mean, no. Or we're going to bear hug Randy Moss and he's got no chance. That to me is, yes, now we've crossed the line of the defense going, wait, they're never going to call a penalty in these situations. Never. So let's just do whatever we want. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I think in this situation, it needs to be called. The other thing I think that saves them is the fact that Mahomes didn't get it to the end zone. That I think, like, it makes it a little less egregious. But to your point, you're right. I can't.
You still would have had the ball right there.
You're right.
You still would have had the ball right there.
Doesn't matter. You're right.
Right.
No.
It would have been 1st and goal from the spot of the foul, which is the 1-yard line, which is what it would have been if it had happened in the end zone. And the way that it all kind of fell together, if Tyreek Hill would have had a chance to catch it, he could have pushed his way in. He could have.
Yeah, sure.
But they took him out. And it worked. Hey, no harm, no foul. The Chargers did it, and they didn't get flagged. What's curious about it is that earlier in the quarter, we saw a 4th and 9 play where it was a very questionable defensive pass interference called against the Chiefs that extended the game-winning drive. And we're still waiting for the replay to be aired by CBS of that moment. It just was very, very
glossed
fishy.
over it.
And if you're a Chiefs fan, you got to be pissed off, sorry, Manchester, about what happened because you get called for what was a close ticky-tack kind of pass interference that maybe wasn't, and then they don't call it when it clearly happens. Chris, if this had been last night's game when that had happened, we would be calling it Fail Mary 2. It's the defensive version of Golden Tate 9 years ago, shoving the Packers defensive back out of the way so he could catch the Hail Mary. It's no different. A deliberate instance of pass interference uncalled. And that one only ended an acrimonious work stoppage by the regular officials and finally got the commissioner to cry uncle, something he vowed that he wasn't going to do. The replacements are just as good. They're just as good. No, they're not. And the Fail Mary was the most notorious evidence of it. They're so lucky that game wasn't played in prime time. And I'm sure they don't want us to be talking about it. Well, too bad. It happened. It should have been called. We need to be talking about it because the league isn't. That's my other point here. And I talked about this yesterday. I wrote about it at PFT. But I remember when Al Riveron was the head of officiating, one of the big criticisms of Al Riveron is he wasn't very good at communicating and explaining to the audience why things were done. It was always very perfunctory and conclusory, and he never got into the details like a Mike Pereira or a Dean Blandino did. And Peter King used to say, hey, that's really the most important job in the league office during the season. The commissioner's more of a figurehead except for discipline during the season. The head of officiating, who talks to media, talks to fans, does videos that they put on social media, that's the conduit for explaining decisions made and not made by the officials. Well, now, you know what? They got nobody doing it. Riveron's gone. Walt Anderson's not doing it. There's no videos posted on the NFL officiating Twitter feed. They don't make anybody available to come on shows like this or podcasts or talk to reporters. It's all Blandino and Pereira. Well, they don't work for the league anymore. Terry McCauley, a former referee, is the one who brought to our attention through his tweets the uncalled pass interference in Chargers-Chiefs. There it is. There is no scenario where this is not a foul for defensive pass interference. That's Terry McCauley. My point is, Chris, they desperately need transparency. They need to pay the money, and I'll say it, pay it to Dean Blandino. Bring back Blandino.
Sure.
Put him in charge of replay review, which is fine this year. It's working fine. No criticisms there yet. But the NFL desperately needs transparency. It needs to be able to explain why things are done, why they're not done. They need to be able to admit when they make mistakes, not go bury their head in the sand, because this gets back to what we were talking about earlier. When there isn't that transparency and accountability, people think the games are rigged.
Yeah.
And that is not what the NFL needs in an age of booming, mushrooming, widespread legalized gambling. The last thing the NFL needs is the tinfoil hat crowd getting credence to the idea that the games are rigged. They're not. But this is the kind of stuff that makes people think they are.
Yeah, no, it is. And it will, like, you're right, if it's in a bigger moment, or it's a playoff game or a Monday night, Sunday night football game where everybody's tuned in. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's like back to the days of Thunder, right? The old movie with Tom Cruise, like, rubbing is racing, right? Okay. Yeah, you're going to have some little extra contact in a Hail Mary. The ball's being thrown up into a scrum. But we didn't say you can assault a guy and just be like, I mean, that to me is where, come on, there's got to be some line here, like, to where, okay,
wrapping your arms around the receiver,
not
and
even looking at
his
the ball,
ability to even get his hands anywhere near.
Right.
He's like reaching through and around the guy to even have an opportunity to get his hands on it. No, Chris, it's no less blatant than Saints-Rams 2018.
Yeah,
it just didn't happen in a conference championship game.
Well, if I'm a team that's throwing a Hail Mary now, okay, this is what I'm going to do this week. Or if I'm Kansas City and I'm in that situation, I'm going to send two receivers in front of Kelsey and Tyreek Hill and have them block. Like, hey, just get down there and push guys out of the way. Just push them, run them over, knock them down, and let's just see. I mean, what's the point? If they're going to let the defense do that, then you got to let the offense have their way too. And and again,
but don't you think that a memo is already being sent to all the officials
I hope so.
and the game referees
I
about
hope so.
I don't think that this is some new reality. I think they just blew it. And it gets back to the fact there's no mechanism in place to review this, either by replay review, because that was a disaster because the standard kept moving every week. It really was magic 8-ball time to know what Al Riveron was going to do when it came to any of the replay review for pass interference calls and non-calls, and they still won't do Sky Judge. This is another example of why you need someone in the booth who is officiating the game with the benefit of what we saw on TV. And what did we see? We saw Tyreek Hill getting mugged. We saw Travis Kelce getting thrown to the ground. And that's where the Sky Judge, and hey, this is high-stakes poker, but the Sky Judge, the booth umpire, whatever title we want to give to that person, needs to get in the ear of the referee and say, drop a flag. And I understand there's confusion about the limits of that person's power. We can worry about the margins later. For a situation like that, when you don't have a safeguard in place, you deserve all the criticism you get.
Yeah.
And they should get criticized. And they're lucky it's not worse. They're lucky it wasn't a night game. And I'm still stunned that there isn't more of a groundswell from Chiefs fans because they got screwed. And I don't want to take anything away from what the Chargers did. This isn't an anti-Chargers thing. This is a pro get the calls right and avoid situations where the game is decided by anything other than what the players do or don't do on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. And hopefully this will at least be a jump-off point to correct the issue to where it doesn't affect a big game in December or January and become a disaster, and then people do lose trust in the officiating again and thinking the games are, fixed in some way.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.